half of us already know a lot about him, but I'll still read out a little bit, which I've gathered from the net. Obviously, I stalked him for a while after he agreed, so no, I don't generally do that though. It was just for this session. Don't be afraid. Ramendra Kumar is a National Award-winning writer and the author of over 30 books for children and adults. His writings have been published in 12 Indian and 10 foreign languages. His stories, poems and satires have found a place in textbooks as well as national and international anthologies, including the popular Chicken Soup for the Soul series. 6 of his books have been recommended by the Central Board of Secondary Education, which is the CBSE, as supplementary readers. One of his read-aloud books, Paplu the Giant, was selected to mark the International Literacy Day in September 2013. He has held more than 1,000 storytelling sessions in 25 languages across the country as well as abroad. His latest book, A Perfect Match, has been picked up by Andhra Pradesh government for placement in 11,200 schools in all the districts of the state. Amazing. He has been invited to different forums as an inspirational speaker, as a storyteller, both in India and abroad. Of course, there's a page on him on Wikipedia, there's his website. If you want to know more about him, you can always visit the internet and stalk him like I did. And he is, apart from all these achievements, he is an engineer in who's the chief of communications at Rourkela Steel Plants.
Yeah.
So it's absolutely amazing. Thank you so much that you have agreed to be with us today. I'm handing this session over to Ramendra ji, and let's just, we are allowed to ask questions, I hope?
You have to ask questions. Otherwise, what's the point?
Absolutely.
I could have just circulated something I had to interpret. So, I asked this question to myself, do I write for money? Absolutely not. Because if my annual earnings from my writing, if I would use in my house, I wouldn't be able to buy dinner for my pet Labrador even for a week.
Nice.
How many writers can earn their livelihood from, or earn money from writing? Hardly a few. The Bhagats and the Tripatis and the Singhs. I don't know whether you have read Ravinder Singh. I think he's appalling. It took me 7.5 months to finish that book, the first one. I mean, it's possibly I'm envious of him or whatever. But yes, Chetan Bhagat's first book was awesome, and the rest pathetic. Then, do you write for fame? Again, hardly. How many of us have managed to seduce the lady called fame? Very, very few. Then why do you write? Why do writers write? The compulsion is from within, not from without. Even if your friends think you're a moron, your wife thinks you're a wastrel, like my wife, your mother-in-law thinks that you're insane, you will still write. It is not the 7-year itch. It is this particular itch starts itching, God knows for how long, and continues itching. It is some kind of a mania which drives you to write. You have to write whatever happens. Many people think that writing is very easy. We are sometimes staring at the window. Sometimes we are clicking off on your computer screens. Sometimes we are just putting your Labrador, I don't call him a dog, Labrador's tail and all, but your mind is working, and you are writing, your mind or physically. So they think it's pretty cool and very easy. I'll just end with a quotation on this aspect. Somebody said that writing is very easy. All you have to do is to just open your laptop, look at the screen and cut away. And as the blood drips, you move on. It's as difficult as that. But only writers would know how difficult it is. So how did I start writing? From there, let's move on. My first poem I wrote when I was in class 2 or 3, and it was even worse than Riti singing. It went something like this. Topsy and Tim went for a swim Topsy swam well and broke the spell. Tim swam badly and went home sadly. And the proud poet in me went to my dad. The proud poet in me went to my dad and said, Bauji, I should call him Bauji. We used to converse in Hindi at home. मैंने एक poem लिखी है. So I expected him to look at the poem and then say, why are you writing this poem? You should be studying maths or science, your brain will develop. Or he would say that it's a good effort, but I can do better. Or let us improve on it. He did not do anything. He just picked me up, gave me a hug and said one word, wonderful. He then took the poem which is written in my spidery scrawl, got it framed and put it in his office. If today I am considered a writer, it is because of that encouragement I got from my father. Then for a few years I meandered into this and that, some poems, some this, some that and all. Poem on my pet dog, on my pet mother, on my mother, I didn't write on my sister, because on your sister you can't write poem, you can only write satire. My wife, I have written a poem, and it's come out really good, because she's very, very beautiful, she's gorgeous and all, so I've written it that way, and I dare not indulge in satire, because I don't know how to cook, so I dare not indulge in satire, and even physically I'm not all that strong. She holds the record for shot put and discus in NIT Rourkela even now.
Okay, oh my.
Which, correct Adanta?
Serious matter.
Yeah. Then I started writing in satire when I was in College of Engineering. If you are in engineering and if you don't like it, you become a satirist. Because it's such a pathetic place to be in, And I was in civil engineering, of all the things. Horrible it is. So I wrote a satire. During my days in civil engineering, I never went to the class. My attendance was something like 2.7 to 2.9%. Final year of engineering, I thought, let me contest for the post of cultural secretary. So during those days when you contest, what you do is, you go from class to class and peddle yourself. That I'm going to do this, I'm like this, I'm like that. So my opponent was backed by PDSU, Progressive Democratic Students Union. Now can you guess which side of this thing it comes from? The rightist or the leftist? Completely leftist. Radical Students Union and all that. So I was quoting to them a particular function they had organized. I was quoting from that. Now that function, what happened was, I said that last time when we had this annual day function organized by my esteemed colleagues, everything was red. It was truly a red letter day. So the chairs were red, the table was red, the pamphlet was red, the banner was red, the hoarding was red, the invitation card was red. Fortunately, the laddu that was given to us was not red, or would have died of constipation. Now, red, all the red guys saw red completely. They were really wild with me, and I had also talked about Animal Farm, and I talked about those pigs and dogs and all. So they were thinking that I am calling them SOSs, means sons of swines, and SOBs, sons of this. So they said, Telugu chapter, that if this guy does not win the election, we'll break his bones and scatter them in the river Musi. Fortunately for me and unfortunately for them, I won the elections by a thumping majority. Now you can't touch an elected leader of the college. So I was saved. But they had their chance very soon. Now, our college magazine was to be published. I was the editor of the college magazine, and one of my lady colleagues had just, smashed the so-called MCPs. So I was told by my colleagues to write an article which would be a rebuttal to the attack on MCPs or on the males of the species. So I wrote a satire called The Unfair Sex. Now, my comrades from the left side of the hemisphere, they thought for them sex only means one thing. The birds and the bees, Khajuraho, Kamasutra, they don't realize it is gender. In a college magazine he is writing about sex. So then our Sitas, our Savitris, our Parvatis, our Lakshmis, our Saraswatis he is insulting. He is a bastardized product of bourgeois capitalist culture, and he should be taught a lesson. So then placards were made with my mugshot on it. So, then they took rallies out from every college in the university. There were around 76 colleges. Rallies were taken out, and people were raising slogans. And that magazine in which my piece was published, it was burned at street corners. That was the first street corner sati in the history of human civilization. Salman Rushdie followed 4 years later. So if you guys want my autograph, after this session you can take it. I'm going to take a selfie. Now then what happened was, I was hounded by those people, and the kind of physique I have, I couldn't handle even the 1.5 of them. So I had to hire hoodlums to take me to the examination hall and back. So that was my first stint with satire. So this particular satire, I had lampooned the entire spectrum, of the political class. I had used names like Atal Brahmachari, T.N. Tension, N.T. Trauma Rao, Jai Lolita, Kaya Palti, and Madari Fixit, Madari Pe Fida Hussain, Chandal Swami. So I had blasted everybody. So my MD loved the article, and he went to Delhi to our corporate office, where the chief of public relations for entire sale was there. He said, see, my MD told him, see my boy, he writes such lovely satire, very sharp and acidic and all that. So my chief of corporate affairs, he read it and he said, yeah, lovely satire, acidic and vivid words and etc. There are only 2 problems. So my MD asked, what 2 problems? You will lose your job and he will lose his job. Being in a public sector, as Vijay Bhai knows, one cannot do anything which embarrasses the company or the government. Here I had not embarrassed, I had done a cheeharan. So there's no question at all. So then they told me that you write something very, very harmless and all that. Why all this satire you are writing? Okay, let me write something harmless. That was the time when my son, my daughter was around 4 and my son had happened. My wife, I'm devoted to her so much. She also works, she's a DGM in marketing department of Rukila Steel Plant. She had her hands full. Job also was there and all that. Then 2 kids to handle and all. So she encouraged me to write something different. She said, you're such a useless person. You can't wash bums. You can't sing a lullaby. You can't cook. You can't even clean up the house. You say you're a writer, na? At least tell her stories. Tell Ankita stories, my daughter. Now for my wife, shifting from the realm of satire to the universe of children's stories was like shifting from boiling an egg to poaching it. Poaching it. It's so simple, why can't you do it? So anyway, I started telling my child, I thought, why should I tell stories from the Panchatantra or something else? I'll tell her my own stories. So she loved those stories, possibly more because of my action rather than the content. Anyway, some of the stories she liked, I sent them to magazines and all. Designs, they started getting published. As my son grew up, the size of my audience tripled. My daughter, my son, and we had got a Labrador by then. He used to listen very intently to my story, my lab. So now the issue with me now was that to balance my daughter's taste with my son's temperament, for the story. Now my daughter had a particular kind of story which she liked. Once upon a time, long, long ago, there lived a beautiful princess. She fell in love with a tall, dark, handsome prince. They were about to get engaged, to get married, when strode a tall, giant, ferocious fellow. The prince killed him and they lived happily ever after. And my son was an ardent devotee of Bruce Lee. Every day morning he would get up, Bruce Lee pranam. For him, in the 3rd or 4th line, the hero would be latching on to the lips of the villain and tearing them. And the second hero will be latching on to the gullet of the second villain and piercing it apart or tearing it apart and all. And it would be all blood and mayhem by the time the story went into the halfway stage. Something like Rajnikant on the overdrive, So balancing these two was one hell of an issue. but somehow I managed to balance both the temperaments and all. And the stories they loved got sent to the editorial board or whatever, and then they started getting published. Now, or should I say, fiercest critic and most ardent admirer. I don't know how much of you know the art and science of critiquing, but you can learn it from my son. Only 2 words he used to use. If the story is good, must. If the story is not so good, chart. Matlab chadega. So luckily the must quotient was far more than the chart quotient. That is why I am a writer now for children's stories. Kitchen. The story is coming up, he simply kicks it and walks off. No other reason why he used to do. He doesn't have to prove his machismo and I am the only person who is watching. But that is the difference. They are different. Especially when they are kids. Then of course later, nowadays they say that there's not much difference at all. But my wife can do short put, I can't. If my wife can do discus, I can't. You have to solve that. Yeah.
Your son is on your wife, that's it.
Totally. They love each other. Not like that at all. I've written for boys and I've written for girls. Period.
What makes a good children's story?
What makes a good story? Any story?
Good children's story.
In children's stories, see, I basically, I think we are jumping it, Let me just, because I have put an entire section. This is so very important. I'm glad you asked that question. So very important. Because people have got different notions of a children's story. They basically think that children are idiots,
Yeah.
It's actually the adults who are idiots.
Yeah.
So as we grow, we garner more and more of idiocy. So now in terms of idiocy, possibly I am much higher, at a much higher level than you guys. I won't be talking about anybody else. Yeah.
You're so fun.
I've tried to write in all genres, not sticking to one particular thing like fairy tale or fantasy and all that. And I cannot explain to you, many of the mothers and dads and all, they say that it's such a pain and they harass us so much and all. Possibly because I'm spending less time with them, I do not know that. But having 250, 300 kids around you shrieking and all, that is bliss for me. Because I can also join them. Yeah, I can also join them.
That's why it's painful.
Yeah, it's blissful. It's really blissful. Me singing and dancing and everybody joining me. It's bliss. In my home, I cannot do that. I'll have a brain hemorrhage. Influenced by my wife. So, I love the company of children. I feel that is the only time when I'm completely de-stressed. I even forget the shot put. There's a guy a child in East Africa who's brought up by an Indian doctor, and he's so fascinated by the Indian doctor, so much in love with the Indian doctor who saves his life, he wants to come to India. So they'll get him to India. So how a Masai youngster settles down in India, he's got his 2 brother and sister in the sense who are the doctor's children, and how they how they form a family. Initially there's a lot of resistance and all. So they have tackled issues like prejudice of caste, region, color, and ultimately this fellow represents India in 100 meters and wins the gold for our country. Because now India is his country. Now where is preaching in this? Okay, there's an element of exaggeration, possibly he might not be able to win 100-meter gold, okay, he might win something else. But it gives a feel-good feeling, Plus, I'm tackling so many issues. But no, you write something about something like Harry Potter, why don't you write? So I said, no, I'm not interested in writing Harry Potter because Harry Potter I don't think is original, in the sense that they have taken quite a bit from Greek mythology, even from Indian mythology. And I'm not interested in writing mythology, in fantasies. Why don't I write diaries? So anything which is popular in the West has to be. So I said, when we have the tradition of Panchatantra, we have the tradition of Ramayana and Mahabharata. What do you know about Panchatantra? You tell me, what do you know about Panchatantra? What is great about Panchatantra? You tell me. Come on, it's a question.
Stories.
Yeah, what is? It has travelled everywhere. It has influenced every story across the universe, And we want to shun Panchatantra, we want to shun our tradition and all that. We want to ape simply because it sells. Diary of a wimpy kid, now everybody, the market is flooded with diaries. I said, okay, I'm not interested in writing diaries. Whether you make a diary out of my book or not, I'm not interested. So that conflict is always there. There's another director whom I really like now, and he follows the same thing, entertainment and value. Can you guess? Entertainment and value. Huge entertainment, big blockbusters, except his. If you say Karan Johar, I'll cry. lots and lots of entertainment, non-stop entertainment, and a value in every movie of his. Yes, big hand for him. Rajkumar Hirani, Munna Bhai, MBBS, Lage Raho, Munna Bhai, and then Three Idiots. PK was the fourth idiot, I didn't like it. But these three, lovely message that's happening, lovely value that's happening, and huge entertainment. So I would like to be like them, and I would like to tell the big shot publishers that please allow me to be the way I am. Otherwise, I'm happy with the way I am. Some of the stories can be really, funny also. I have written a story about tigress. It sounds autobiographical, who's very fond of her husband's whiskers. Right? She's obsessed. Every time she leaves, and that fellow is a lazy guy who doesn't do a shit of work, no hunting, nothing, he'll just be lolling on his backside. So his name is Arjun, and the name of the inspired by my wife, is Agni, the name of the tigress. So she counts the number of whiskers and she goes for for a hunt, and after she comes back, again she counts in Telugu and Hindi and English. So it's all about this and all, and that whisker flies off, and how he retrieves that whisker. It's called Baya Whisker. And in between he falls in love with a donkey. So it's take on that. And there's another story in which a vegetarian cheetah falls in love with a non-vegetarian donkey, who falls in love with Adnan Sami, who is a melodious singer, but is an ass, is a donkey. So in this very Karan Arjun-like situation, since you're so fond of Karan Arjun, the story moves on, So the anthropomorphic characters are great. Kids love. So will you introduce me again so that I can start, or should I start?
Please start.
It's so nice hearing such words, At home I never get a chance. Except my Labrador sometimes barks, otherwise never get a chance. So the kind of stuff I have written, just to tell you how obsessed I am and how crazy, insane I am. I've written on JJ Act for children, Juvenile Justice Act. Believe me, that is one of my, and it's a graphic novel, graphic book, it's a comic book. I was commissioned by a NGO based in Delhi. It's one of the toughest things I've done, to break down Juvenile Justice Act for children in simple language can be really tough. It's like breaking down Rahul Gandhi's speech into intelligible verse. Yeah. So it's really tough. Then I've written erotic poetry, and that day, I think for the next 3 days, my wife slept in another room. Why are you writing all this? Dirty fellow, dirty mind. Then I have written ghazals. My father was a professor of Hindi. He always wanted me to write in Hindi. My mother was a famous short story writer in Hindi. And that's why I moved away to English, because otherwise they would say, inherited and this and that and all. So I wrote, I had this fit of insanity for a period of 1.5 months or 2 months, when I thought I was in love, or I was in love and all. So I wrote around 20 ghazals, which has recently been published and all that. And so it's a, what should I say? Pretty high, what's it called? High decibel, not high decibel, high funda ghazals, वो दिल मुर्दा कत्ले आम सरफरोश के नीचे कबर के अंदर. So those kind of ghazals, that मेरी मज़ार पर तुम्हारा आना ज़रूर आना, right? रुक रुक के ही आना ज़रूर आना. High level this thing, मज़ार and all. You know what मज़ार is, no? Qabr. Yeah. Then I've written travelogues. So our family is very fond of traveling, and we love animals. Because we love each other, so we love animals. So the first trip we made abroad, my wife and I went to Denmark, where for an international conference of children's writers. So from there we went to other Scandinavian countries, So I came back and then wrote a number of travelogues, which were published in Hindu and some e-zines and all. So I thought I couldn't write travelogues, but then I found that if you are a writer, you can write in any genre. Most people should be able to write in any genre. So, like my wife, she does the shot put and javelin, and she's also 200 meters in high jump. So, very versatile, So, then we went to Kenya and to Tanzania. So, there I wrote an entire novel based on this. What I was talking about, the Maasai guy becoming the 100 meters champion of the world. So, that's based on my trip to Kenya and Tanzania. Then once somebody challenged me, through a challenge that can I write a novel on the film city, on the life in Bollywood. Now my parents were very fond of seeing films and all, so there used to be a lot of discussion, and I'm also pretty fond of Hindi films and all. So I wrote a novel called Mohini, which is my biggest seller, in the sense, the only bestseller for adults. Children, many are bestsellers, but for adults, this is the only one. And it's about, this was written much before Dirty Picture was released. But I could not get it published because we didn't have those kind of publishers then, Now, of course, many new publishers have come. This was published by Shrishti, the guy who published Ravinder and Durjoy Datta and all those. So this went into its second reprint in the very first week itself. It's done well. Even now on Amazon, it's doing rather well. So this was about a Hindi film heroine who climbs her way to success. Yeah, and then what happens to her and all. So I've gone into great detail. So most people do not believe that I've never had any kind of access to any heroine or any hero or any villain, and how I could get into those details. So I basically believe that in writing you need three things: experience, observation, and imagination. They sum up the entire globe of writing. If you don't have experience, you make do with imagination. Imagination is you're not able to really imagine those things, so then you make do with observation and experience. Like for children, when they write, they use their imagination because they don't have much experience, Like they might not have gone to that place, might not have met that person, but their imaginations are fantastic, unimaginable, absolutely brilliant imagination they have. So naturally, they rely more on imagination, less on experience. Observant, children are very observant, much more than what we think they are, They are observing you day in and day out, every little thing you are doing, and they're copying you, and sometimes embarrassingly so. So then, I had gone to Kashmir for 10 days. So there, apart from seeing all these sites and all, I talked to the common person. I had gone 3-4 years back. The Shikhara fellow, the guy who runs a restaurant, the guy who washes vessels in a hotel, the professor, and then the guy who's a guide, the photographer, and I got a different picture altogether. What do you people think about Kashmir? About the average Kashmiri? What is he like? Can anybody answer me? What is an average Kashmiri like?
I just find them strikingly good looking. That was my first impression.
Absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, I was into coma, first few days. They are so bewitchingly beautiful and so simple. So simple and so beautiful. And when I had gone for Bukaru festival, to Srinagar. So there I was taking a session with a lot of children. This is very immodest, what I'm going to say. So one young lady came and asked me, "Sir, aap Kashmir se hain?" My day was made, For 5 minutes I could not even speak anything. Okay, then you tell me something. Apart from being extremely good looking, what else? What else makes them an average Kashmiri? What's your impression? They harbor terrorists?
Not very well to do.
Craft.
Yes, crafts, yes. But some of the notions which we are that every Kashmiri is a terrorist. They support Pakistan. They breed violence. They give shelter to terrorism. I went there and I met those people. They are as normal as us. What is an ideal day for your son, if you have a son or child? What is a great day for them? You tell me. Those of you who got kids and are growing up and all, what is a great day for them? A birthday is celebrated with a theme style birthday when everybody is a moron. That won't be theme style, that's an actual truth. But everybody is from Star Wars or whatever, from Harry Potter and all. They get a new mobile. For a Kashmiri boy of 10 or 12 or 13, the average day is when he goes from home to school, the school building is there. It's not been bombed out of existence. When he's in the school, he doesn't get a phone call. Tere appa ko maar diya hai. When he reaches home, he finds that his mother and sister are there. They have not been raped or molested. His brother has not been incarcerated. That for him is a normal day. We have, between school, we have holidays. They have, between holidays, they have school. 1-2 days of school and then holidays. So I wrote a book called And the Jhelum Flows. which talks about the average Kashmiri and what he wants from life. He wants one word from life. What is that one word? Please, big round of applause for her. I have called it Aman. He only wants Aman, he doesn't want anything else. And that we are not able to give. So I had said that the average Kashmiri is being hounded, is being smashed, is being butchered, his sensibilities are being completely crushed by the government, by the military, by the police, by the media, by the intelligentsia. We are all responsible for the creation of Kashmir. Naturally, this book didn't do well. I had to release it in a very hush-hush, but I wanted to, in any case, do it. Now I'm writing blogs. Kashmir part is over. Now I'm writing blogs on parenting, travel blogs, and satire. I've gone back to writing. When there is so much of angst within you, the only way out is satire. See, humor is for times which are good. Satire is for the times which are now. In these days of angst, in these days of monetization, demonetization, these days of, everywhere only hypocrisy rules. We are crushed by politicians, we are crushed by these bureaucrats and all that. What do? What does a normal common man, not normal, abnormal common man like me do? You would write satire? Then often I'm asked this question, are you afflicted by writer's block? So I tell them that I'm a blockhead. So blockheads are never afflicted by any block. But seriously, the only reason why I'm not afflicted by writer's block, never, is because I keep switching girlfriends. Like satire, short story for children, short story for adults, travelogues, then satire of course, and novels in different genres. Then I have written, now I'm writing this thing on JJ Act Part 2, I mean 2006 version, 2015 version. I have written one thing on POCSO. You know what POCSO is? Prevention of Child Sexual Harassment. That I have written. Now they are all so. Then I write poetry, both free verse and the normal kind of poetry or the normal kind of poetry. That's why whenever I'm feeling bored with one particular this thing, I switch over to something. And I'm always, it's always some kind of a mania, frenzy that is happening, So people say, how do you manage to write so much? You have a full-fledged job, A PR job is 24/7. Now there are two reasons I'm able to write, 2 or 3 reasons. One reason is that my day-to-day chores, they are taken care of by my beautiful gorgeous wife. Her name is Madhvi. Like, she handles the finances. She's happy with it, I'm happy with it. I don't know from which end of the check I should sign and which end of the check I should tear. So she's very happy. She handles the entire thing. Health, she's half a doctor because her brother is a doctor. She handles those issues. Mental illness she cannot handle. That's why I'm like this. She just cannot. She says, I don't understand that. I said, I'm feeling depressed. No, I don't understand that. Please. Because she can give you a tablet for anything, But depression and this euphoria, she can't understand. Those extremes. So, but basically what happens, a writer is never jobless. Yesterday I was writing a complete article for Reader Mania. Day before yesterday. In the train. I had a notebook and I wrote it in the train. Because I knew that I had to meet a deadline, so I wrote it. Now I'll revise it once more. So I request you that don't think that you need a milieu, you need a scenario to write. There was this gentleman, Sahitya Academy Award winner. He would go to Dal Lake to write a poem or a novel. I can't afford those luxuries, of going to the Dal Lake. At best I can tell my wife is, you dump me in the washing machine. That's the closest I can go to clean my brain and all that. So there's no question at all. So when the kids were young, I would be writing the computer and all punching the keys and all. Then my son would come running and say that, Papa, इधर दीदी मार रही है. Then he would go away. Then तुम तो हमेशा उसी को support करते हो. तुम मेरे को कभी कुछ नहीं बोलते हो. Then my wife would come and say, अरे चौधरी के यहाँ जाना है, marriage है, आज जाने से भूल गए ना तुम, हमेशा भूल जाते हो. Then my mother-in-law would give a ring. क्या? कौन है ना? नहीं, she would say in Telugu, ये महीने मच पाया, you know my anniversary. Amidst all this chaos and madness, I would continue writing. So that I regard my. I want to pray to God, I thank God that He has given me this ability to write in chaos. Otherwise it would not have been possible. It's come from there, I think, because otherwise how do you write so much? None of us has that kind of time, no? If you keep waiting for inspiration, you'll only get perspiration. You will not be able to write. So please, all of you who are thinking that next Monday at
10:30 when the kids have gone to the summer camp and husband is snoring, I will write. No, it won't be possible. When you get a thought, write it in a diary. So second thing which I think my father and God in that order have blessed me is that I am able to store those stories in my head. In 1986, I was traveling for an interview for JK Synthetics from Hyderabad to Bhopal or someplace. Yeah. So there I met a couple, that the mother was looking at me and all that, and she was smiling and all. Then she said, "Beta, kahan tak ja rahe ho?" बोला, "मैं यहाँ तक जा रहा हूँ ना." अच्छा, ये पराठे खा लो and ये चाय पी लो and all. So then she said, तुम्हें देख के हमारी लड़की की याद आती है. तो बिल्कुल तुम्हारी तरह ही था. And both of them were extremely odd looking, and I always considered myself as reasonably good looking. I thought, इन दोनों के बच्चा मेरे ऐसा कैसे लगता है? ऐसा कैसा insult कर दिए? How come you? So then she said, no, actually he died in this thing for a shootout, in a curfew. So, but my photo दिखाती हूँ. And she showed that photo, and he was complete gargoyle. He was looking like, he was looking very odd, buck teeth and ajab kind of hairstyle and Then I remembered a Telugu saying which says that Kaki pilla kaki ke muddu. Please translate.
Crow baby, crow kiss.
In the sense that for a crow, the baby is the most beautiful one. So on that I wrote a story. 12 years later with the same scenario, 90%, same train journey. 12 years later, and I called it Mother. And the last two lines were that every time I think of the word mother, I'll think of that lady. It moved me so much. Because my mother left me when I was only 14. She left home and went, So I thought this kind of the feeling which she gave me of being a mother, so passionate, so much in love with her child. So it was a great experience. So basically, what do you need for writing? You need all these things, whatever. And you need PQ. What is PQ? What is IQ? Little bit. Yes, PQ is passion quotient. If you have the, people ask me, where is your, how come you write so prolific and all? So I said PQ, passion quotient, because if you have the passion, you'll have the time. I don't socialize much. I don't go for booze sessions, And the only time I go to the club is for swimming and all that. Then I don't go to the boss's house with a bottle of whiskey. That, boss, what a speech you made today. Wow, in that AGM you were really fantastic. Andar ki puti ka समझते को पूरा तेरा कर दे फ्लैट कर दे कहता बहुत भला स्पीच तेरा पॉइंट कोई नहीं. So I don't indulge in all this. So I am considered unsocial. My mother-in-law thinks I am antisocial, but I am comfortable with this. My best friend was he when I was 10. Someone to love and trust and have lots of fun. The kite that wouldn't fly, the boat that refused to sail. Every test my hero passed. Not once did he fail. Of love and togetherness, we shared many a moment. His future he neglected, but never even once my present. He regarded quality time his most precious gift, even if it meant giving his career a bit of short shrift. When I was 20, he suddenly became a stranger. I was Mr. Know-all and the cool, lonely ranger. I thought he was a failure, who had achieved nothing in life, neither wealth nor status nor position. He was merely a father to his son, a husband to his wife. When he should have been climbing the ladder, he wasted his time on the family. Instead of being busy in meetings, he was tending my hurting knee. I envied my friend his father's success and felt very small. How I wished my father too was a chairman, so that I could strut proud and tall. One day my friend saw my album of the time when I was nearly 10. In it were all the memories, the love, the joy, the fun. As he scanned the snaps, his face grew long and sad. I wish we could trade places and I could have such a loving dad. I have everything, my friend said, that money and status can buy. Yet in my album, there is no photo of dad and I. While I was growing up, my dad too was busy growing, and in my stock of photos, there is not a single one worth showing. You have so many memories to treasure, while I have none. Though I may have a swanky car and a big house, I have lost a childhood of love and fun. As my friend left, I had tears in my eyes. How selfish and mean I had been, he made me realize. I went to my father, a tired and crumpled man. I told him, I'm sorry, but I love you more than anyone ever can. And he took me in his arms, and both of us began to cry. He was once again my hero, and I only 5.
Thank you so much, Mandiji. You gave us this time. It has been brilliant listening to you. And what an entertaining speaker you are.
The joker in the back.
Yes. No, not at all, not at all. We can see how good your satires are from the way you speak. It is a reflection of the writer you are. It's amazing.